Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final score with
Eric. How about them Cowboys saw ya?
And I'm the new elected mayor for John's Nation, Matthew Batesmore.
And Stevie Reno Fly.
What's up, guys? The final score is back again, and we have a very special episode this week. Actually, doing two final score episodes this week. I had to do this year with my buddy up here. He's making his own screen debut on any podcast where you can see him live. Usually we do a telephone interview, but due to an equipment failure on my part, I brought him into the 21st century with me tonight to do our maybe 14th, 15th annual NFL mock draft for 2024. Is my buddy, the guy that got me wanting to do all this. He's responsible for you guys having to listen to me every week, Mr. Gattis Hodges. What's up, Gatmo?
I don't know that, Stephen, but I will tell you this. I appreciate you bringing me along. I guess that recorder that you had that didn't work can that be a blessing in disguise. I hope people won't turn us off. But I'll tell you what Earl Teller used to tell me all the time. You got a face for radio, so that's probably why I hadn't been on too much. So but it's always been fun. It's always good when you and I get together, talk the NFL draft, and like you said, you and I were talking. I don't know how many years we've done this thing. 15, 16, 17. I don't know, but I don't know about you, but I haven't had any calls to be a general manager yet. So evidently we haven't done too well, but it's always fun to give it a try.
But you know what? I think I would say we have done just as well as the so-called draft experts have done. Mel Kiper Jr. especially. I mean, I was watching a video on YouTube a month or so ago. A guy was saying, who made Mel Kiper this expert? Look at all the ones he's missed out on, and it was a bunch of them up there. But he's in there, and he's got that title, and he's up there on draft night live every year, and I'm not, and me and you both are not. So I guess he knows a little bit more than we do.
Yeah, and he's always been my guy. I like him. Like you said, people can get after him if they want to, but the guy knows his stuff. He's always been really good about it. And then Ty McShay got in the middle of it. Of course, he's out at ESPN now. He would not be on the draft this year. So, and some other people involved in the NFL Network. So a lot of people getting it. And the guy I really, really enjoy, I think is top notch, is Louis Riddick. And Louis, was a general who works on ESPN. He is really top notch. But, I enjoy listening to those guys. I'll enjoy watching them Thursday and Friday and Saturday and trying to figure out what they know and what I didn't know. But, Steve, I've taken a little different approach this year to mine. In the past, you and I were sharing this earlier today. I would kind of look at mock drafts, and I would watch everything that I could watch on TV as far as what the so-called experts were talking about, and I'd make a consensus with my mock draft of what I'd seen in several mock drafts and what those guys were saying. And, it just wasn't getting any better with doing it. I said, I'm going to take a different approach. So what I did this year is I basically printed out a copy of what each team needs, what free agents they're bringing in, and what people that they lost, and then taking maybe like the top 50 to 60 players out of the college ranks who are coming in, and kind of made my selections on my own. So I guess I was a real general manager, so to speak, a little bit this year, and I'm kind of excited about it. I don't know if it'll be any better or not, but like I said, I couldn't be any worse. I think I got 2 or 3 right last year, so nobody's really good at it, to be honest. I mean, if you want to be picking the draft, I think it's probably easier to, even though there's only 32 picks, it's probably easier. And I'll probably say it's stupid when I say this, probably easier to get the team of all 64 teams games right in the NCAA basketball tournament than it is to get this right.
I just made that same comment on my live podcast this morning, which was the Monday morning drive this morning. I said, you think picking a March Madness bracket is hard. Try picking a mock draft, because one trade or one guy gets off up there in the wrong order, and your whole your whole day is screwed up for good. Last year was not a good year for either one of us. That was for sure. I think, like I said, Gattis has had the most correct selection with 6. Nobody has sniffed that since then, I don't think. But yeah, I did kind of the same thing. I did look at some mock drafts, and I do have, for the first time this year, I do have a trade on mine, and that's something I've been eyeballing for a while with this team. I won't get into that. And there's a couple of picks that I'm still kind of not sure on. I think they could go this way, but they very easily could go another way. And we'll talk about that in a minute. First of all, we're got some breaking news in NFL. We're recording this on Monday afternoon. The Jets have finally found a trade partner for Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson heads to the Broncos. Looks like it's a late round pick swap, a 7th round pick, and Zach Wilson in exchange for the Jets' 6th round pick. And the Jets and Broncos will evenly split Wilson's $5.5 million guaranteed training camp roster bonus. And I don't. My pick for the Broncos was, not changed. I'll put it that way. By this, some people would say, "Well, that changes my pick," but this did not change my pick at all. And I think you probably know where I'm going with my pick. But this didn't change my pick at all. What do you think about Zach Wilson to the Broncos? Did I lose Gattis? Uh-oh. Hold on.
Interesting combination. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
If he couldn't put up with Russell Wilson, the highs in the world, he going to handle Zach Wilson?
All I have to say is all the coaches for the Broncos better watch their wives, is all I got to say.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. Hey, a couple of things about my draft, Stevie, that'll kind of let you in on. First 3 picks, I have quarterbacks being selected. Not saying where they're going,
right,
but being selected. And only 1 running back and no linebackers in the first round. But I guess you could say I do have some linebackers because edge rushers are basically outside linebackers.
Yeah, pretty much.
But no middle linebackers.
No interior linebackers.
So that's kind of give you just a hint of what I've got going on here.
I will tell you this: I don't have a running back in the first round.
Well, I have one.
I don't have a running back in the first round, but I'm like you. The first 3, at least the first 3, are quarterbacks, and
yep.
we'll get into that. Let me get your opinion on this. A couple weeks ago, Deion Sanders comes out, head coach at Colorado now, and says his sons and his boys at Colorado will only be allowed. He said, "I'll only allow this list of teams to draft them." And this goes back to like LeBron now saying with his son Bronny James, he wants him to go to a certain places too. What do you think about these guys trying to take over the draft, trying to dictate where their players go?
I don't like it a bit. I don't like it at all. And it's not the first time we've seen it. Look all the way back to John Elway.
Yes.
Not wanting to go certain places and wanting to go and play baseball with the Yankees. Same thing happened with Eli Manning. He ends up getting traded for Phillip Rivers, San Diego, New York Giants situation. Yep. So we haven't seen it before, but I don't like it. Caleb Williams had a little bit of things to say about where he wanted to go early in and when he entered the draft. But I don't like it at all. I'm not sure the general managers really pay a whole lot of attention to what Deion had to say about that. I'll be honest. I don't think those kids are going to turn on an NFL offer to get one.
They shouldn't because you don't know when you might, wherever you end up at. make the best of it, guys, because a lot of people don't get that chance to go to that next level. Just make the best of it. You're going to get paid either way.
Amen. I agree with that, and I don't like him kind of stepping in. You know, they're just playing for clicks. I guess they know what he said. They're playing
Yeah,
for clicks. You get
yeah,
more clicks. So, okay, you go to NFL, you're gonna get clicks wherever you go.
exactly, exactly. So let's get right into it. Now, the NFL draft will be in Detroit, Michigan this year, so we probably hear at least once some Kiss Detroit Rock City played on one of the broadcasts, I'm sure. But the Lions hosting the NFL draft this year, and what a story that is with the Lions now coming really close to making their first Super Bowl this year, blowing that second half lead to the 49ers. Um, and I'm hearing, did I hear right? Where are they saying? Have they announced where the draft's going to be next year?
If they have, I have not heard it, but
They had
I'm
it in
like you.
Vegas last year, didn't they?
Yes, they
Yeah.
did. And what they had didn't have it at Kansas City one year as well,
Yeah.
somewhere out that way. But anyway, I'm like you. It's a great year for them to be in the Motor City, with coming off what Detroit did last year, and then that making it to the almost making it to the Super Bowl, and the way they put a run on, should be a lot of excitement up at the Motor City.
Yes, and the 2025 draft will be held somewhere around Lambeau Field in Titletown, Kansas, in Green Bay next year. So, moving all around with this draft, which I think is a great idea.
I agree. I give the commissioner there a little bit of credit there, even though they're going to boo him everywhere he goes. But
Yeah, it don't matter where.
I think it's one of the great decisions he's made with this NFL draft.
Yeah, I do too. So let's get right into it. Leading off with the first pick, Chicago Bears, and I'll let you take the first pick.
Okay, obviously everybody, and I'm with them. Caleb Williams, head and shoulders, according to the experts, as far as a quarterback is concerned. He's, I didn't care for his lack of engagement in NFL Combine, but like I said, he's not the first to do it. Kid's got great numbers. He threw for 3,633 yards and 30 touchdowns, and completed 68.6% of his passes this season. Only had 5 interceptions, and he seems to be the guy that everybody wants. And Chicago obviously needed a quarterback after Justin Fields headed over to Pittsburgh, and they'll need a wide receiver, some edge rushers. They picked up DeAndre Swift and Keenan Allen from over the Chargers. DeAndre Swift to run in the backfield. So they've made some moves offensively to go along with Caleb Williams. I think it's a good pick for the Bears, and trying to build around him. I think bringing in Keenan Allen is a big help for him.
Yeah, I agree with this. If most NFL fans, if you unless you just want to be different, are going to say Caleb Williams, because this is a no-brainer here. With Fields gone, that quarterback room is pretty empty right now. As soon as Fields left, you knew where they weren't going to trade their pick, and they were going to go with Caleb Williams. Like you said, Swift coming in helps, but man, bringing in Keenan Allen and putting these weapons around him, try to make it easier, the adjustment easy as they can on him, was a great move. Hard to believe that the Chargers let Keenan Allen go. I know they were kind of cap strapped, but letting one of your big receivers. Well, we'll get to the Chargers in just a few minutes, but yeah, Caleb Williams, had a great career between Oklahoma and USC, and looks like he's the consensus number 1 pick here on the final score. So, number 2, the Washington Commanders, and this one is a tough one here because I think they could flip flop. The next 2 picks could flip flop. And I've been torn, but even to the last few minutes about who I would put here at number 2. But I'm going to have the Commanders taking Jaden Daniels from LSU. I think he's more athletic than Drake May. Of course, he's. I think the Commanders, and I almost called them Redskins, but they'll always be Redskins as far as I'm concerned. The Commanders go with the more athletic Jaden Daniels, who had a great year at LSU. Sam Howell is gone, so you know they're going to take a quarterback, but very easily could see Drake May go here, but I think they're leaning towards Jaden Daniels right now.
I agree with you. I think Jaden Daniels is the pick. And Stevie, you talk about Jaden Daniels, 6'4", 210. His quarterback rating was 208.0. Caleb Williams is 1.70.1, and Drake May was 149.0. So not only did he have the athleticism, he has the numbers to go with it. Threw 40 touchdown passes, threw for 3,800 yards. Here's the thing I would have liked to see. I would have liked to see Drake May in that LSU offense with those wide receivers we had. So, but I like the pick for Jaden Daniels, and being a Cowboy fan, you don't want to see Washington get too much in front of you. But Dan Quinn's come in from Dallas, got a lot of excitement in Washington Commanders camp. Got a new quarterback, as you said, and they bought in some good pieces from the free agent. Zach Ertz, a good tight end, has been signed. Austin Eckler from once again, the Chargers letting somebody go at running back. Bobby Wagner comes over to take over the linebacker spot and give him some leadership on the defensive side. Then they bring in Marcus Mariota to kind of, help Daniels a lot. So I think Commanders have done a wonderful job, and I think Jaden Daniels is the guy with Mariota there helping him out. Dan Quinn's making some nice moves with the Commanders.
Yeah, I this new regime, new ownership with the Commanders. Maybe they'll get things back on track, and we can have a Cowboys Commanders rivalry that would rival the old Cowboys and Commanders rival with some competition there. But yeah, and interesting enough, I don't know if you saw this, Marcus Mariota will become the first quarterback to wear the number 0 in the NFL. So didn't know if that little tidbit right there. I saw that and I was like, I didn't know many. I know they had a few since they've done this uniform number change that could wear 0, but first quarterback to wear 0. I don't know why you'd want to wear 0, but anyway, whatever floats your boat. All right, number 3, the Patriots. I'll let you take this one first.
Well, Minnesota's got 2 picks in the first round. They got the 11th pick and the 23rd pick. I think they're going to trade with New England. I think they're going to trade them for the 11th round pick, and I think Minnesota's going to take this 3rd pick. And they're going to select Drake May from North Carolina. And here's the deal on this, Steve, and you probably know this. Josh McCown is the quarterback coach now for the Minnesota Vikings. He was a Myers Park High School assistant coach and quarterbacks coach in 2019, where Drake May played high school football out in Charlotte. His 2 sons were teammates for Drake May at Myers Park. He's going to come in. Drake May knows how to use the tight end. We saw that all season down at North Carolina. TJ Hawkinson is very good at tight end. They got Justin Jefferson back if they can hold on to him. I think this is a good move for the Minnesota Vikings, who have brought in Sam Darnold because they lost Kirk Cousins to Atlanta. So they have Sam Darnold they can fall back on. They bring in Aaron Jones, too, running back from Green Bay. I think it's going to help them as well. And so I think this is a good fit for Drake May. I think he fits their offense to a T, especially with McCain at his quarterback coach. I think this is a perfect marriage between Drake May and the Minnesota Vikings.
Okay, so I've got the same pick here. I've got the same guy going here, but this isn't where my trade comes in. I've got the Patriots taking Drake May, but the Vikings stay put for at least another pick. But Drake May kind of faded down in stretch for Carolina, but had an awesome pro day. He was airing the ball out, got a cannon arm. Mac Jones, of course, gone from the Patriots. Bill Belichick is gone. A new era for New England. But Drake May, I got Drake May going there to New England. Did you see the comment Kraft made apparently to the Falcons owner when he was thinking about hiring Belichick, saying you can't trust Belichick?
Wow, I did see that, and I also heard last week in some of my travels in my funeral business, some of the sports show I was listening to, talking about that Arthur Blank really wanted um,
Yeah.
Belichick. However, he was the only person in the Atlanta Falcons building that wanted Belichick, which I thought was kind of interesting, and he ended up backing off when nobody else in the building wanted him. So maybe Robert Kraft has something to stand on it with his comment.
Maybe there was, a little bad blood there. It sounds like a little bad blood back in New England, especially after Brady left and was successful. And Belichick wasn't so successful after Brady left. So maybe there was a little bad blood between Kraft and Belichick there. Who knows?
Speaking of Belichick, I understand he's supposed to be doing some NFL work and
Yeah.
possibly work on his draft. I can't imagine him being very good at that, but I could be wrong. I'm sure he knows the game. He knows the players, obviously, but I'm not sure about his delivery on TV. I'm anxious to see what he's going to sound like.
He's got to be better than what he does in his press conference for this to work. His press conference was like just matter of fact, and if he's going to be like his press conference, then no, he will. He won't make it. He won't make it. Nobody.
Well, he'll get some ratings out of the gate. Because they're going to be people like you and I to
just to
see
see
exactly what he can sign it, just see if he can do the job.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, see what goes on. But yeah, we'll see after that. All right, number 4, and this is where my trade comes in. The Cardinals picking at number 4, but the Vikings trade their pick, and they trade their 11th and the 23rd pick to the Cardinals. And this is a guy that I think it might be a reach, but the Vikings have been intrigued with him for a long time. They've been one of them that's really been looking at him. From the national championship Michigan Wolverines, I think the Vikings will take J.J. McCarthy, quarterback from Michigan. The Vikings have got to have a quarterback for sure. With Kirk Cousins gone and Sam Darnold, the Ghostbuster. I mean, anytime you have a guy that's saying he sees ghosts on the field, and Darnold, what can you say? It is what it is. He's been a bust for sure. Between his time at Carolina, his time, of course, originally picked by the Jets, and then he spent last year with the 49ers as a backup, but I don't put much trust in that. You may have to throw McCarthy to the Wolves early. He may have to get like Troy Aikman in his rookie year. He may have to get baptized by fire because you put Sam Darnold in there, and I don't think you're looking at a really a good year for the Vikings. And at least if you got the rookie in there making those mistakes, at least Justin Jefferson knows, well, we're looking to the future now. We're trying to get him ready if he's going to be ready. And if it works out, maybe Jefferson stays. Who knows? It's going to be hard to pay. Jefferson's going to command a lot of money when his contract comes up. But I got J.J. McCarthy with a trade going to the Vikings.
It's not a bad pick. You look at McCarthy's numbers; his rating was 167.4, which is better than Drake May's. He threw for almost 3,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, only threw 4 interceptions. But here's the big number on him. He completed 72.3% of his passes. That's really good coming out of Michigan. So I've got him coming up a little later in this draft. But if they get McCarthy or Drake May, I think Minnesota would certainly be satisfied. I like Arizona to keep that pick, and obviously they need a wide receiver. And Marvin Harrison Jr. at Ohio State is the guy that can come in and help Kyler Murray. They still need another running back to help James Conner. They could address that later. I'm not sure, but they're bringing in. When I look at who they brought in, they running back DJ Dallas, which I don't remember hearing a lot about. But if they need some help on running back, they're going to have to get somebody other than DJ Dallas in there to help them. James Conner has played fairly well for the Cardinals, but he needs some help. And but I think Marvin Harrison, wide receiver, will I think he will make or break Kyler Murray. Harrison is really, really good. And if
Yes.
he doesn't make Kyler Murray better, I think that's going to be Murray's demise. I think it's on him. It's not on Harrison.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking of, gosh, what were you talking about? I'm getting old. I can't even remember what I was thinking about a few minutes ago. Geez. Anyway, it'll come to me. We'll catch back up with that. But number 5, we got the LA Chargers. Who you got?
They need wide receiver help as well. They've lost Keenan Allen. Of course, we talk about Belichick being gone in New England. How about Harbaugh being in, Jim Harbaugh being out in Los Angeles? How he'll work with Justin Herbert, who I think is a terrific quarterback, and I think can be in the right system, and the right players around him can be really, really good. And I got them taking a wide receiver. They're going to go out to Washington University and bring in Rome Dunze. I think that's how you pronounce his name. When you look at Dunze's numbers, as I try to pull him up on my chart in front of it here, he caught 92 passes, Stevie, for 1,640 yards, 13 touchdowns, averaged almost 18 yards a catch. And he's a young man that's 6'3", 212 pounds. And the Chargers have bought in some guys, running backs. They lost to Austin Eckler as well. They bought in J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards to run the football. But they bring in tight end Will Disley as well to help Justin Herbert on that offense. But just to see how Herbert and Harbaugh connect will be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I just remember what I was talking about. We're talking about McCarthy earlier to Gattis. You talked about his completion percentage and all that. How many guys had the luxury in college of playing in front of that offensive line that Michigan had? That offensive line Michigan had was like an NFL line already. They were incredible. So yeah, we'll see how McCarthy does with another line besides that big line he had in front of him this year. Chargers, I agree they need wide receiver help. And I do have them taking who you had the Cardinals taking early, Marvin Harrison Jr. What a career at Ohio State, 3 years, 2,495 yards receiving, 31 touchdowns, majority of that in the last 2 years. He only started one game his freshman year, but he started 25 the last 2 years. Comes from that pedigree with his dad, and has the potential to be better than his dad. I've heard a lot of talking on some of the podcasts I listen to. Don't be surprised if Harbaugh changes up and wants to protect Herbert and goes with an offensive lineman earlier. But I don't see that happening. I see Marvin Harrison going here at number 5. And like I said, he could go to number 4. He's definitely a top 5 pick here, but I've got Harrison definitely going to the Chargers. Keenan Allen being gone. Your Mike Williams is gone now. So you got to have somebody in that wide receiver room. And I think Marvin Harrison is a day one starter. No doubt about it. All right. So my number 6 pick, the New York Giants with Matthew Bazemore, will love this pick for me. I think they could just about go anywhere. Offensive line and receiver is something that I think they really need. And I've got them going to LSU, taking wide receiver Malik Neighbors. You look at his career, you talk about Marvin Harrison. In 3 years, Malik Neighbors has put up 189 catches, over 3,000 yards receiving, 21 touchdowns for LSU. And the guy 6 foot, 199 pounds, a good size wide receiver. I think he is another day one starter, and the Giants definitely need some help with that wide receiver room.
They certainly do. I kind of went away from my theory that was using my strategy that I was going to use this year on the New York Giants. Obviously, this team needs interior offensive linemen, a running back with Barkley gone, linebacker, safety, cornerbacks, and cornerbacks, and then they get the quarterback. As what they really need. They need other stuff and other than a quarterback. But I'm going to send J.J. McCarthy to the Giants, and he kind of meets the New York Giant profile. He's kind of like an Eli Manning. He's kind of like a Daniel Jones, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on him with Barkley out of that lineup. Now the Giants have brought in some good people. They brought in offensive guard John Runyon. Devin Singletary, I guess, will take over at running back. He was brought in as well.
Yeah.
They brought in the edge rusher Brian Burns, who was the Carolina Panthers' best defensive player, and quarterback Drew Lock. So I guess he'll be McCarthy's side by side. But New York is a tough spot to play quarterback, buddy, as you very well know. And McCarthy's a guy probably can handle it. But there's going to be a lot of pressure with Barkley not being in that lineup for him.
Yeah. What do you think about Daniel Jones' future in New York? I know, he played well his contract year, and a lot of times a quarterback with that contract year will play well, and then the next season, I know injuries hurt him the last year, but he was not looking really strong before injuries took him out. But I don't know about his future in New York.
I'm not sure either, Stevie. I mean, if McCarthy comes in there, he's going to be on the short leash. Daniel Jones is, I believe, because if McCarthy can come in and beat him out for that spot, certainly he's going to be on a short leash to get out of there. And I don't know if it depends on what Daniel Jones does in the beginning. But I don't think they'll throw McCarthy in there right out of the gate. They might, who knows? But a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones to perform now if they get McCarthy.
Definitely. Number 7. Let you have this one.
Probably the easiest pick of all for me. Tennessee Titans. Everybody says, well, they need a running back because they lost Derrick Henry. They need an offensive tackle. And the best one out there is probably the biggest guy on the board.
Yes.
Joe Alt, offensive tackle from Notre Dame, 6'8", 321 pounds. Tony Pollard's come over from Dallas. He'll probably take over for Derrick Henry. He can run and hide behind Joe Alt with that 6'8.5" foot, 321 pound frame. Tennessee's picked up Calvin Ridley, wide receiver. Also, like I said, Pollard. But they lose Derrick Henry. But I think Joe Alt's the guy who's going to step in and play from day one.
Yeah, I this is, like you said, one of the, besides the first pick, this is the easiest pick so far. Joe Alt, like you said, just a monster at 6'8", 321 pounds. He's got that. A lot of guys with their dads played in the NFL. Joe, what was his dad's name? Jeez. John Alt played in the NFL for the Kansas City Chiefs. So he's got that pedigree. Talking about they've got a new coach. Brian Callahan's there. I didn't really, and I know it had to be some kind of I guess feud between the coach last year, and gosh knows his name has escaped me right now. But
Mike Vrabel.
Vrabel, yes. For him to be gone, because I thought that was a huge surprise when Vrabel is gone from the Titans. But they're definitely moving in a different direction. But yet, definitely Joe Alt is an easy pick right here for the Titans.
I agree. Yeah.
Number 8, the Atlanta Falcons. Another new coach and a quarterback. You got Kirk Cousins there. So where do they go here? I mean, you've got some offensive weapons. So I think the Falcons definitely need some defensive help. So I've got them taken from Alabama. Outside linebacker, Dallas Turner. Dallas Turner was an All-American and the SEC Co-Defensive Player of the Year in 2023. And you've got that Alabama pedigree there. 6'2", 247 pounds. Was a 4.46 40. And just it seems like a great leader. And definitely Atlanta needs to get back to playing some defense. They're taking a chance with Kirk Cousins with that big contract. Now you got to get some defense to shut some people down. So I've got them taking Dallas Turner, Alabama.
I'm on board with you with Dallas Turner. You said, like you said, new coach Raheem Morris needs a lead on that defense, and he is a great leader and a great player. He knows how to play in that building as well because he plays in the SEC championship game every year, so he knows how to play in that building. But I look at you're talking about the Falcons need some help defensively. Stevie, I look at the free agents they bought in, and everybody's pretty much offensively.
Yeah.
To bring in DeAndre Swift to take over for Deontay Foreman, who left. Bring in wide receiver Ray McLeod and Rondale Moore and Darnell Mooney to help Cousins out, the new tight end, and Gerald Everett. But I don't see many folks on the defensive side for them. Yeah. And that still may be a shortcoming for them. But then again, they're playing the NFC South. So it doesn't take much to get to the top of that division.
You win 7 games in the NFC South here lately, you might win that division. So moving on, we agree on that pick. Moving on, at number 9, who we got here at number 9? We got the Bears again, picking at number 9. What you got for the Bears?
Well, I got them going to a guy you picked earlier, Malik Neighbors. I think you picked earlier from LSU, wide receiver. Well, I mentioned earlier, there's 2 things that Chicago needed was a quarterback, a wide receiver, and they've got 2 of the best in the business with Williams and Neighbors. And you look at Neighbors' number, 89 receptions, 1,569 yards, 14 touchdowns, 17.6 yards a catch. You see why Jaden Daniels is so good when you look at all these movies these LSU guys are putting up. There's another LSU guy I got going in this first round as well as a wide receiver. And so it's a lot of people that can help Chicago, and certainly Neighbors and Caleb Williams is a good way to start it offensively for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the Bears, though, I've got them going defense. I've got them taking defensive end, and I'll probably butcher. This will probably be one of the first names that I butcher, so I apologize. Laiatu Latu from UCLA defensive end. This guy is 6'4", 259, ran a 4.64 40, 2023. Started all 12 games, led the nation in tackles for loss per game, and ranked 4th nationally in sacks per game. He had 13 sacks. UCLA's first ever winner of the Lombardi Award and the Ted Hendricks Award. So I think you go offense with the first pick, you go defense with the second pick for the Bears. Latu is my pick for the Bears at number 9. All right. We got your 9th pick, right?
Yes, we did. I had Malik Neighbors.
That's right. That's right. All right. Number 10, the New York Jets. And this is this pick right here. Of course, you're playing in New York. We talked about how hard that is too, but this guy will come right in, I think, fit right in. And the Jets, if they get this guy at number 10, I think all the Jets fans will be big fans of this guy. He's a 3-time All-American, one of the, if not the best tight end in college football last year from the University of Georgia, Brock Bowers. 6'3", 243 pounds. He finished last year, an injury-plagued season last year, 714 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns. But, man, look at his freshman year. His freshman year, 882 yards, 13 touchdowns receiving, and then 1 rushing. Then follows it up with 942 yards his sophomore year, 7 touchdowns. But if you could tell a big difference in that offense from Georgia when he was out last year he only played 10 games last year. There was a big difference when he was out of that lineup. And I think this is going to be one of those tight ends. It's going to be one of the guys you talk about for a long time, but Brock Bowers going to the New York Jets.
He was another easy pick for me, Stevie. I got him going to the Jets as well, and I love watching him play.
Oh, yeah.
Aaron Rodgers gets back in there with him at tight end. You know, they picked up Mike Williams as well as a wide receiver. They picked up Morgan Moses, an offensive tackle from Baltimore. They've added Hassan Riddick, an edge rusher, and also offensive guard John Simpson. They got rid of Zach Wilson, so he's out of that locker room as well. Things got to be looking up for the Jets. But I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'll tell you how good I think Bowers is. I think he'll be the NFL Rookie of the Year.
I would not doubt that away. I would not bet against it. I really wouldn't. So yeah, definitely. He was so anytime Georgia needed a play or needed a big third down play last year, that was their go-to guy. And the thing was, every defense he went up against knew that, and he still found a way to make it happen. So yeah, this is definitely an easy pick for the Jets right here. All right.
He's a fun guy to watch, man. Man, he is a fun guy to watch.
All right, number 11, who you got?
Well, see, I let Minnesota trade New England for that third pick. And so I have New England picking here.
Right.
And they're going to go – they need help everywhere. They really need an offensive tackle. And Ole Fashanu from Penn State, 6'6", 319 pounds, up in that area, playing over at Penn State, doesn't have far to go up to to Boston to play for the Patriots. And their new coach, Gerard Mayo, in his first draft. It's hard to figure out what they do when, like I said, with Belichick not in charge. But I think he's a guy that can really come in and help the Patriots, who picked up a few folks as well. If you look at them, they've gone with some offensive linemen that they needed. Matter of fact, I think they got one of your former Steelers, at Okafor. Is that correct? He played for the Steelers. And they brought in a couple of other guys. They picked up Antonio Gibson, a running back. Got Jacoby Bissett coming over to probably take over the quarterback duties for the second time. He was in New England at once. So maybe things on the up and up for Gerard Mayo, who, by the way, is from Newport News, Virginia.
Okay.
And the new head coach up at New England.
Yeah. Is Jacoby Brissett going to become the next Ryan Fitzpatrick? Because he's going to play he's played with so many NFL teams. Of course, like you said, his second go around with the Patriots, but I think he's been Cleveland, Washington, New England. Gosh, it seems like there was another team I'm leaving out that he was with, but of course, an NC State product. But yeah, Jacoby Brissett, he has been around and like
and wins games. And wins games.
Yeah, and that's why he keeps getting picked up. It's just like Fitzpatrick. He knows how to win games. He may not put up the flashy numbers, but he knows how to win games. So I
don't think he can win a Super Bowl for you, but I think he can win games.
Yeah, I do too.
Like another quarterback that I'm well aware of.
We won't go there. We won't go there right now. All right, so my number 11 pick, we had also a trade there. The Cardinals pick up the number 11 pick, and they go with Romeo Odunze, wide receiver from Washington. I think you had him earlier. 6'2", 212 pounds, finishes his career at Washington with 3,060 yards, 22 touchdowns, a monster year last year for Washington. It gets him all the way to the national championship, but man, 81 catches for over 1,400 yards and 13 touchdowns. But yeah, I've got the Cardinals, and just like you said earlier, with Harrison will make or break Kyler Murray. I think the same thing goes here. If I think Kyler Murray is on a short leash in Arizona right now. He's had every chance. I know he's had some injuries, but he's had his chances, and the rope or the is a little bit shorter than it used to be with these NFL quarterbacks. Like back in the 80s, you had 3 or 4 years, which I think he's had about the same amount of time. We'll see what Kyler Murray is made of this year if he can stay healthy, see what the Cardinals can do.
Stevie, I think it's a big statement you made about quarterbacks now. They have a real short leash now.
Yeah.
Probably more than any position in the NFL. They have an extremely short leash. You better produce and produce quickly. and it goes back to I think there's a lot on the line. Quarterbacks get too much credit when they win, too much fault when they lose, as you very well know. But so many people are betting games now and everything. It's just no room for error for quarterbacks in the NFL anymore.
And that's what I'm saying. It is so easy, like you said. And we talked about this so many times about quarterbacks or what have you done for me lately? It's not just like, let's see, I always go back to this one. When Brett Favre went to Minnesota, turned that team around, got them to the NFC Championship game, played his butt off at Minnesota that year. But everybody in Minnesota will always think about that interception he threw at the end of that NFC Championship game against the Saints. They don't think about the fact that he got them there, but they think about that interception cost us. He's a Green Bay fan. He should have stayed in Green Bay. But yeah, you had a great run with Favre in Minnesota, but you just don't want to think about that. Okay. Number 12 pick, the Broncos. Who you got?
Well, I'm going to do something a little different here. Probably my most difficult selection through this entire draft. Sean Payton is such a mystery to me as the Broncos head coach. And I remember when Dallas was clamoring to get him, all the fans wanted him down in Dallas. But I don't know about it now, to be honest, whether you bring him down there or not. But I'm really convinced, though, they're going to go quarterback. And I think he's going to take Michael Penix from out of Washington. I'm not sure he meets Peyton's mold as a quarterback, but to me, he's the best quarterback left, other than maybe Bo Nix. But they need a quarterback, and I like Michael Penix. I thought he played well last year. He's a different kind of quarterback than what Peyton has made his hay on. He had such a good quarterback down at New Orleans whose name escapes me for long. But, still, Penix is the guy. I think he'll do well there. And, he's not going to have to come completely across the country to play and coming over from Washington.
So, you talking about quarterback in New Orleans with Sean Payton?
Yes.
You talking about Drew Brees?
Yes, Drew Brees. He had Brees for so long, and I don't know if he and Winston mesh very well or not. Yes. So I honestly think I like that. You got Wilson coming in now. Zach Wilson coming in the challenge at quarterback, and I don't even think they had. I don't know who they had left on the roster, to be honest. That could quarterback. I think Penix could come in and give him a shot now.
After the Zach Wilson trade today, I saw somebody post about the quarterback room could possibly right now be the worst quarterback room ever in professional football. Let me see if I can bring up the quarterback room right now. Because I don't think I remembered any of those guys that were on that were the backups. And I'll go ahead and tell you, I am taking a quarterback too, but I'm going a different route before. Hold on. Come on now. Do they not want to even put the check back closer to the season for an update on the Broncos 2024 depth chart? Wow. They don't even want to put their depth chart up. Hold on, maybe
I can understand that.
Has it. Hold on, I'm still working on it, guys. Here we go. ESPN will probably. Oh yeah, Jarrett Stidham. He's listed right now as the starter over Zach Wilson is second, and Ben DiNucci is the third string quarterback. So, okay.
DiNucci's young man out of James Madison University, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So, I'm going to go quarterback, but I'm going to go a little different direction. And this guy, had what would be considered for some for some NFL quarterbacks, a NFL career in college. Played 61 games in college. He's 24 years old. Out of Oregon, I got Bo Nix going to Denver. I think this has been somebody that the Broncos have wanted from day one. 6'2", 214 pounds. He played at Auburn, so he's played in the SEC. Finished his career with Oregon. 12-2 record last year. He finishes 77% completion percentage last year, 4,500 yards, 45 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. So a monster year for Bo Nix. Who knows? I mean, everybody said, well, he's got experience. He's definitely played a bunch, but he's going in with no NFL experience. I don't care how old you are. Look at Kenny Pickett, and we won't get into that, what I think of the whole Kenny Pickett fiasco in Pittsburgh, but we'll see. But I think Bo Nix goes to Denver here.
You might be right here, and I think either Penix will be that pick. And I'll talk a little bit about Bo Nix later on, but let's get into it here. Stevie, I don't know if he's won too many big games. That's why I look back. True. He was in Auburn, and then they had a couple of games this past year at Oregon where they just couldn't make it. He couldn't make the plays when they needed them to win those games. But like you said, he's played a lot of football.
Yeah, the Washington game was one of those games where I don't think he could make some plays to get him over the top.
That's exactly right. And of course, their coach at Oregon, he gave him every opportunity to do it, and he didn't play the standard way. He went for it a lot. Their coach out there did, and I like their coach at Oregon. But and who knows? Nix could mesh better with Peyton than maybe Penix could.
He could, but we'll see. But moving on to pick number 13, I got the Las Vegas Raiders, and the Jimmy G experiment is over. So now you have to have a quarterback, and I've got him taking the guy you just talked about, Michael Penix Jr., who quarterback from Washington. Starts his career out at Indiana, transfers to Washington for he had 6 years. Is he just as old as Bo Nix? 23 years old, so he's got some experience there. Almost 5,000 yards passing last year, 36 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, quarterback rating of 157.1. But he can also do some numbers with his legs too. So Washington gets to the national championship game because of Penix, in my opinion. He had weapons around him, but that guy, just like we said about Bo Nix, couldn't make the big play. Penix could make the big play, and that was why they got over Oregon. But I think the Raiders get a good pickup here with Michael Penix Jr. at number 13.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with on that one. I think he's, like you said, he or Nix one either could go vice versa, wherever. But in looking at what Oakland had brought in and what they needed, obviously the number one need was a quarterback. They brought in Gardner Minshew, who has had some success. Yeah. He's kind of like Jacoby Brissett a little bit, so maybe a little more success. Former East Carolina guy. They brought him in at quarterback, and they brought Christian Wilkins in to play defensive tackle, which has helped them a lot. And Alexander Madison, a running back, will take over for Josh Jacobs. He rushed for 700 yards last year with the Vikings. I thought Antonio Pierce did a nice job last year. Dana Stretch for the Raiders, gotten himself the job. So they need some offensive linemen. And speaking of Washington, they got one of the best coming out, Troy Fontenot, the big offensive tackle, 6'4", 317, who kind of led the way for Penix on the offensive side. So that's where I think the Raiders are headed, and going to turn it over to Gardner Minshew and see what he can do with that offense.
I got you. Gardner Minshew, Minshew mania, I guess that's what they said last year. Of course, has a short career at ECU, ends up with Washington State, but And that's another one that guy can get in a game. May not can get you to the Super Bowl, but he can definitely win some games for you. Jacksonville, you proved it at Jacksonville, and even with Philly a little bit. So we'll see how that goes with the Raiders. Number 14, who you got, Gattis?
Well, they need offensive linemen, and there's no better than the young man out of Georgia, Marius Sims. He'll be protected on that offensive line for Derek Carr. They bring in an edge rusher in Chase Young, a wide receiver in Cedric Wilson, linebacker Willie Gay, backup quarterback in Nate Peterman down in New Orleans. So they're retooling, but Amarius Sims, who is another big body to play down inside, Stevie, to kind of protect Derek Carr, who's kind of getting on the late stages of his career as well. And talking about big guys, 6'8", 340. How would you like to be feeding that young man every night? Amarius Sims, offensive tackle from out of Georgia.
Yeah, I've got him taking a tackle as well. And I'll talk about your pick, who you picked a little bit later. You picked this guy earlier, Olu Fashanu. I guess that's how you say his name, from Penn State. 6'6", 312 pounds. That's not as big as Alt or Sims, but man, can he clear the way? All-America. He was All-American for 2023 and was named the Big Ten's Remington Pace Offensive Lineman of the Year and declared for the draft after that. I think either way they go, it's going to be an offensive tackle, just like you said, because Derek Carr, and finally the Saints get rid of you mentioned his name earlier, the backup quarterback.
Jameis Winston.
That mess last year, I talked about that on the podcast with the touchdown out of the kneel formation so they could get his buddy a touchdown was totally – I would have cut him the next day. If he goes against – I'm a coach, and he goes against what I told him to do and does something like that, it makes me look bad. No, you're gone. But good, I would say good riddance if I was a Saints fan.
I agree. Totally.
All right. Indianapolis Colts are next on the clock at number 15. And I've got them going with cornerback, another Alabama pick. Terrion Arnold, cornerback from Alabama, 5'11", 189 pounds, runs a 4.5 40. He really, 1 year, 2 years at Alabama, 63 tackles, 5 interceptions and a sack and forced fumble. But he was a lockdown corner for Alabama. Terrion Arnold with the Colts. Colts definitely need some defensive help, and I got Terrion Arnold going to the Colts.
Well, I got the Colts. They need a cornerback, and I agree with you, but I'm going a different route. From what I've read and what I've looked at, the best corner in the draft is a young man out of Toledo, Quinion Mitchell, who will start from day one in that defense from Indianapolis. When you think about the Colts, is Joe Flacco, who's come over in the free agency, going to be the quarterback for the Colts in September?
Straight off the couch. Look what Flacco did with Cleveland last year. Gets them to the playoffs. He may have laid an egg in the playoffs, but man, what a run it was for Flacco.
Yeah, it was. And, they just lost Gardner Minshew to free agency. So the Colts have had a hard time filling that spot at quarterback since the young man left for a few years ago. And I tell you, and when Luck left, they've had a tough time filling that quarterback spot. But they've been able to win some games and keep it going. But, man, they need a quarterback in the worst way up there. But they also needed a corner in Quinion Mitchell, I think, fits the bill from Toledo.
I think they've got the Richardson kid last year for the Colts. He was out. He was out with an injury most of the year last year. But
that is correct. You're right.
He looked good when he was in there, but that injury kept him out most of the year. So we'll see how he recovers from that injury. So the Seahawks up next. Who you got?
Well, they need some offensive line help, and a lot of times Seattle will stay with those West Coast guys. I think you've already had this guy on, but I think they're going to go with the edge rusher, the young man from UCLA, Leitanu, I guess is how you pronounce it. Kind of fits the bill coming off that edge. And 6'5", 259, 49 tackles, 13 sacks last year. 13 sacks is huge, man.
Yeah.
And a couple of interceptions, a couple of fumble recoveries. Kids, the real deal from out of UCLA. Not going to have to go very far up the road to help in Seattle. And the reason I kind of strayed away from that offensive line, Stevie, they brought in a couple of guys from free agency, George Finn, an offensive tackle, and Lakeland Thomason, an offensive guard, to play in front of maybe Sam Howell at quarterback for Seattle. Yeah. Maybe the change of scenery will help him. The thing that Sam Howell has got working against him is his inability to get the ball away quicker. He held the ball longer than any quarterback in the NFL last year. And I think that kind of goes back to his Carolina days, trying to do the same thing with the Carolina days, trying to get guys open because they couldn't run the ball behind him. Right. And I think that kind of goes back to that. And also, I want to say this about Drake May. People have kind of gotten off the Drake May bandwagon a little bit, especially as we've gotten closer to the draft. I still think, and I could be the only one in the country that feels this way, I still think it goes back to the misses of Howell last year but more importantly, Mitch Trubisky coming out of that Carolina program. Even though Mac Brown was not there at the time, it still is that North Carolina football program that both of those guys came out of. That might have a little bit of bearing on what Drake May is looking here coming into this draft.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that, but you're exactly right. Sam Howell, I mean, just like you talked about, held the ball longer than any NFL quarterback. Also had probably one of the worst offensive lines in professional football as well. He was on pace at one time to crush the most sack quarterback in the NFL history. I don't know if he ended up breaking it or not, but I can't remember for sure. All right, I've got him going offensive lineman here. I've got Khalif Fuaga. I guess that's how his name, from Oregon State, All-American offensive lineman, 6'5", 324 pounds. Was a backup his first few years there, but he started all 13 games in 2022 and was a starter all for 2023, first team All-American. I just think, if you're going to put, maybe you want to give Howell, if he's starting at actual offensive line, who knows? It's going to be hard. What is it? Who is it? Geno? Is Geno still with Seattle, right?
That is correct. Yes.
He definitely he's getting a little up in his career too. So I think he's definitely going to need some protection there. But I've got him taking Fuaga. I guess that's how you say his name, offensive tackle from Oregon State. So moving on, we're halfway. We're at the halfway point. Jacksonville is on the clock, and let me pull up. I've got him going cornerback, and just as a guy you talked about earlier, Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo, 6 foot, 195 pounds, ran a 4.33 40. 41 tackles last year, 18 passes defended, and 1 interception. Named a semifinalist for the Chuck Bednarik Award. Toledo's first player to earn the honor, was chosen first team All-American. Played in the Senior Bowl as well. I just think Jacksonville is one of those teams that you look at them last year, what an epic fall the second half of the year. After the, what was it, a tweet or X, whatever they put up about playoff tickets will be available so-and-so. And then they go on a losing streak, and Houston overtakes them in the AFC South, and they don't even make the playoffs. Trevor Lawrence there, you gotta, he's got some offensive weapons. You got to put somebody on defense to be able to shut down the opposing offense. So I've got him taking Quinyon Mitchell from Toledo.
Well, Steve, I'm going back to the offensive side. They lost Calvin Ridley, who was one of their best wide receivers. I think they're going to go to Brian Thomas, wide receiver from out of LSU, because Lawrence needs a big-time wide receiver, and Thomas fits the bill here. And Thomas's number is 68, catches 1,177 yards, 17 touchdowns in that vaunted LSU offense last season. And here's something a little interesting. When you backup quarterback, Jacksonville looks like it's going to be Mac Jones.
Yeah.
He picked up in free agency, so maybe he'll push Lawrence a little bit. Who knows? But they do bring in corner Ronald Darby to kind of help him out as a free agent on the defensive side. And also defensive tackle Eric Armstead should help him on the defensive front. But I'm like you, Jacksonville with a huge collapse last year. We'll see how they bounce back this year. And if Trevor Lawrence can get it going, man, he can make it happen down in Jacksonville.
Definitely. That's one of those teams that you really they're hot and they're cold. They have been for a while. So we'll see what Trevor Lawrence can do there. Bengals are up next. Who you got?
Well, when I look at what the Bengals need, obviously they need a tight end and they need some defensive linemen and some offensive linemen as well. But so I look at what they brought in free agency. They brought in a tight end from New England, Mike Gesicki. I think I pronounced his name right. He had several good years at Miami, looking at his numbers today, and played a couple good years at New England. He fits the bill to help him at tight end. They bring in Shelton Rankins for some help on that defensive front. I think they're going to go to the offensive line. Talisi Fagu from Oregon State. Joe Burrow needs some protection, and I think he gives it to him on that backside for Joe Burrow if he comes back and dread to play. They get it going again. You know, they've got some diva situations in their wide receiver room as well at Cincinnati, like a lot of other teams do. But they seem to have a lot going on with their wide receiver room in Cincinnati. But if Burrow can come back and have a good year, I know this is what you don't want to hear, Stevie, but they can be pretty good. I tell you what, that division is really good. I mean, Cleveland is really underrated. You got Baltimore, you got Pittsburgh, who has picked up a lot. You got Cincinnati, who's played in the Super Bowl here recently. That's a really tough division.
Yeah, the AFC North. You think about it. If Burrow wasn't hurt last year, could they possibly put all 4 teams in the playoffs last year? Because they had 3 out of 4 in the playoffs with Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore, and definitely was a different team without Burrow, that quarterback, no doubt about it. And I've got them getting some protection for him, and I'm going with the big offensive tackle from Alabama, J.C. Latham, 6'5", 342 pounds. He's got that, like we talk about, that Alabama pedigree. I just think they want to go with somebody to protect Burrow and keep Burrow healthy. So J.C. Latham is going to be my pick at offensive tackle for Alabama. The Rams are on the clock next. And the Rams need somebody to replace Aaron Donald. And I see one guy out there that was a big dude that can fill that void probably, no problem. I got him taking Byron Murphy, the second defensive tackle from Texas. 6 foot, 297 pounds. He was named the Big 12 Defensive Lineman of the Year with Devondre Sweat. It didn't hurt last year. He had a receiving touchdown, so maybe they'll put him in on offense against some of these teams. But you've got Stafford that is on that offensive line, but you definitely got to have a replacement for Aaron Donald there, no doubt about it. And I know they talk about, I can't remember the kid's name that was a rookie last year that was also finished in the voting for defensive rookie of the year, I think, and I can't remember his name, but they still need somebody there to help him out. But I got him taking Byron Murphy, the second from Texas.
I kind of I'm going defense as well, but I'm not going defensive tackle. I'm going on the edge where Jared Verse from Florida State will come in and help me. He had 41 tackles, had 9 sacks last year, 6'4", 254 coming off the edge. I think they can move him to the edge. You know, they lost Chase Young as well.
Yeah.
To come up that edge. And so you got the whole side to replace with him and Donald. I think Chase Young obviously would be a lot easier to replace than Aaron Donald. But I think if you take either one of those guys that we picked, we'll be okay for the Rams, who kind of can be mysterious on how they're going to play from year to year. And I look at their free agency of who they brought in. They have brought nobody in to help their defensive front. They've got a couple corners that they brought in, but they brought nobody in to help them on that defensive front.
Yeah, definitely. All right. I'm going to take this one. I know it's out of the order. I'm going to take this one first. My boys, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they've done a lot of Omar Khan did a great job of free agency, picking up, Patrick Queen at linebacker, picking up the quarterback room, which looked like it was going to be devastated. Russell Wilson, then the whole Kenny Pickett fiasco, he gets shipped out to Philadelphia. So you go get Fields. And but there's a lot of question which way the Steelers go. Do they go corner? Do they go wide receiver with Deontay Johnson being traded to the Panthers? But there's one place, and I'm kind of torn between these two guys. There's two guys up here, and I'm going with the guy that I had to hunch with first that I really want to see go to Pittsburgh. They have great success when they pick a first-round center. And I've got them taking Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon. 6'3", 328 pounds. He took over as a start center in 2023, so he doesn't really have, only 1 year of experience at center, but man, did he did a great job there at Oregon. You look at some of the first-round picks at center for Pittsburgh over the years. Soon to be Hall of Famer, I'm sure, Marquise Pouncey, Hall of Famers Dermontti Dawson and Mike Webster. So we could go offensive lineman here. We could go a tackle, but I'd rather go start in the middle and get a center. And the wide receiver is in this draft it's such a good wide receiver draft. I think we can wait on wide receiver. But yeah, I've got him taking Jackson Powers Johnson with this one. And I was torn between another guy, but we'll mention him a little bit later. When I get to him, I'll tell you who that is. But yeah, Steelers go with Powers Johnson.
Well, I think I'm with you. I think they're going on that offensive line. But, you talk about the wide receiver group, people have a tendency to forget Cordell Patterson can play in that spot as well.
Yeah.
I thought he was a great pickup for Pittsburgh,
Definitely.
along with Patrick Queen at linebacker. So, and they always seem to find wide receivers at Pittsburgh. You got Pickens, who is back, even though you lost Johnson to the Panthers. But a guy you mentioned here a couple picks ago, young man from out of Alabama, J.C. Latham.
Yeah.
Offensive line. I don't think Steeler fans will be dissatisfied with him either. But 6'6", 342, and like you said, he's got that Alabama pedigree. And boy, you put him on that offensive front, and to me, boy, Pittsburgh's throwing a little more money out this year than normal. And
yeah,
if Mike Tomlin can't make it happen this year, what group? If they can stay away from injuries, I like their chances to do pretty well. If they don't run into trouble with Fields and Wilson battling for that spot, if everybody comes out and plays well and they stay away from injuries, I really like their chances to play really well this season.
You know what I'm tired of, Gattis? I'm tired of everybody celebrating Tomlin being over 500 every year. That is a great accomplishment. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to settle for 9-8 and early exit from the playoffs, or 9-8 and not make the playoffs. I want some playoff wins. It's been a while since Tomlin's won a playoff game. I think it might have been 2015, maybe 2016, but being just above mediocre or mediocre is not Steeler football. At least it had been since I've been watching, in my opinion. I just think Tomlin needs to get a playoff win. Just get to the playoffs and get a playoff win and make some improvement there. It's just I'm just tired of celebrating that achievement there. They talk about it as such a great achievement, and it is. The fact that you've never had a losing season, great accomplishment. But show me something in the playoffs too.
I agree. You talk about pedigree. Pittsburgh Steelers have a Super Bowl pedigree,
Yes.
like you mentioned, and that's why there's so many Steeler fans nationwide. Watch the Steelers play when they go on the road. Just watch them and see
they
how many
travel.
Steeler fans on the road. They're everywhere, and it's back to those days with Lynn Swan and those guys, and Terry Bradshaw, and as they came along and really got it going. And like you said, they've got that Super Bowl pedigree, and it's like you said, being a Dallas fan, I can kind of see where you're
same thing with you guys.
Yeah, same thing. You want to see. I like, I'm getting up in age. I want to see them play it one more. My time's getting short.
It's been a while. It's been a while for the Cowboys there, and the last time you played in the Super Bowl, you guys beat us. So the Neil O'Donnell Bowl.
Right. That's right.
So yeah, I know what you're talking about there. So Dolphins at 21. Who you got?
Well, I like them to stay in offensive line. They need some interior help on that offensive line. Miami's coming, man. They're coming.
Yeah.
And they played really well last year. Didn't play real well down the stretch, but they're coming. And they need some help along that offensive front. And a guy can play anywhere. As a young man from out of Duke, Graham Barton. And when you look at Barton, 6'5.5", 313 pounds, can play a little anywhere along that offensive front. And they picked up Shaq Barnett to help them defensively. I really like what Miami's can do here, and if they get Tua playing consistently at quarterback, they could really make some noise down in Dolphinville.
Let me ask you this: how much did that freezing weather in Kansas City in the playoffs affect the Dolphins in that playoff game?
Affect them tremendously.
Yes.
And I tell you somebody they're going to really miss. They're going to miss Christian Wilkins on that defensive front. He's a terrific player. They're going to miss him on that defensive front. Maybe they go that route, Stevie, and pick somebody in the draft to try to replace him. I don't know, but I like Barton and offensive lineman for him.
It's funny you say that because that's where I'm going right there with defensive tackle. I've got the Dolphins taking Johnny Newton, All-American defensive tackle from Illinois, 6'1", 304 pounds. Newton had let's see, as a true freshman in 2020, 8 games, 2 starts, 23 tackles, a sack and a half. Last year, was it last year? 2021, 50 tackles and 3.5 sacks. So I think they've got to get somebody in there to replace Wilkins, and I think this is the best route to go at this point in the draft for the Dolphins and see what they can do there. But yeah, number 21, Dolphins take Johnny Newton for me. So moving on to the Eagles, man, what we talk about the Jaguars having a meltdown the second half of the year after the Eagles beat the Chiefs, and Sirianni comes off the field saying, "How about that? How you like that?" Going out, they fall flat on their face the second half of the year. Barely they sleep back into the playoffs. And they lose first round, getting throttled by the Buccaneers. And I've got them going with a guy you talked about earlier. Huge guy. 6'7", 340 pounds out of University of Georgia. Offensive tackle, Amarius Mims. Give Hurts some protection. Maybe get the running game going there. But Amarius Mims is the pick I've got for the Eagles. Who you got?
Well, I think they need some secondary help. And you mentioned this guy earlier. You had him, Terry and Arnold from Alabama.
Yeah,
will certainly help them. And their defense was just pathetic late in the year, and especially in their secondary. But they picked up edge rusher and Bryce Huff. They picked up Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He comes back to the Eagles from Detroit. And, of course, Saquon Barkley, who may be the best free agent pickup in the entire NFL. To help the Eagles, maybe their offense can keep their defense off the field. So it's going to be interesting to see if Philadelphia can return to that championship type play coming up this season. Speaking
of Barkley, what do you think about Tiki Barber's comment when Barkley signs with the Eagles, like saying, "You're dead to me now."
That was uncalled for. He's more professional than that.
It should
And
be.
But Stevie, I'm learning as I get older. Toning and speaking and saying what's on your mind is starting to be the theme of the day now, which I don't really care for. I don't really like. It's easy to stand behind a mic, sit behind a computer and talk about it. You don't have to face somebody, face to face and tell them that. But I thought that was very unprofessional.
Definitely.
Comment.
I didn't like it at all. All right, so we got number 23. Who you got, bud?
Well, I got Minnesota. They need some help on the defensive line. This is a pick they got in a trade with the Texans from last year. They're going to go with Brian Murphy from out of Texas. They've addressed the offense with Drake May, and they need a defensive lineman. And even though they bought 5 defensive linemen in free agency, I think Byron Murphy is good enough to go in the 23rd pick in this draft to Minnesota.
All right, so I've got him going on defense as well. This is the Cardinals pick, by the way. This is one of the 2 picks where they exchanged with the Vikings when the Vikings picked up McCarthy. I've got him going with one of the interesting names in the draft. Chop Robinson, who was nicknamed Pork Chop at birth, later shortened to Chop, from Penn State. Started his career out in Maryland, then transferred to Penn State. Played 12 games, 26 tackles, 5.5 sacks, 6'2", 254 pounds. The Cardinals get a little help on defense. Chop Robinson from Penn State going to the Cardinals there with their second first-round pick after this trade with the Vikings. Let's see if I can pull up my guy here that I want next.
I like the name Chop, man. I like that.
We're going to get to another good one soon with me. I don't know if he's in your first-round pick, but where's my guy at? Hold on. I'm getting there. So number 24. I'll let you have this because this is your boys.
Cowboys, 12-5 a year ago, losing the first round of the playoffs. I want Eric Sawyer to hear this comment, Stevie, if you don't hear anything else. Dan Orlovsky said the other day, and it's the best comment I've heard on the Dallas Cowboys in a long, long time. And you can attest to this as well. He said that the Dallas Cowboys had Super Bowl expectations, but they don't have Super Bowl support. And I thought that was a great comment by Dan Orlovsky. And Eric, I hope you heard that.
There.
But and because I'm a big Cowboy fan, they have done nothing in the free agent. They've signed 3 free agents thus far. They've lost 8 players in free agent, 4 to the Commanders. And that doesn't include the losses of Landon Van Elst and wide receiver Michael Gallup.
Yeah.
So they need some help on the offensive line. And the offensive tackle they're going to bring in from Oklahoma is going to be Tyler Guyton, another big guy, 6'8", 322 to help on that offensive line. But they need some defensive help. They've got the common theme I heard with everybody after Dallas lost last year where they were not big enough defensively or offensive fronts. And they've got to get bigger. They got to bring people in. Who Jerry will bring in, I'm not so sure. But it's his team. You can do like he wants to with it. But still, I don't know. They need a general manager, but he will not let them have a general manager.
No, that ain't going to happen.
That's not happening. And he's going to have a coach that he can control. So if you're a Dallas Cowboy, that's what you got to face. But think about it. Yeah, Super Bowl expectations without Super Bowl support. Says it all to me.
Definitely. I've got the Cowboys going offensive line as well. I've got them going Troy Fautanu from the Washington Huskies, 6'3", 317 pounds. Wanda Morris Trophy as a top offensive lineman in the Pac-12, and the Joe Moore Award as a top offensive line unit. I'm like you guys. This is totally unlike the Cowboys. It's like the Steelers don't like to spend a lot of money. and don't make a splash in free agency. They do that this year. The Cowboys are usually the ones making a splash in free agency. They spend hardly nothing. The running back room with Dallas. I think Dallas was convinced that they were going to get Derrick Henry, and that didn't work out. And by that time, all the top-notch free agents running backs were gone. You think there's a reunion in Dallas with Zeke Elliott maybe coming back in the fold?
Who knows? They're going to have somebody. Hopefully not, from my standpoint. I think he's done. He was a great blocker at running back and had some good years running the football. And they always said he was the best blocking running back in the game when he was playing well. But I just think his days are done, Stevie. Who they'll turn to, I have no idea. But I just think his days are done in the NFL.
One thing he did not play well was center for the Cowboys.
That is correct.
Why in the world they ran that play in the playoffs, I'll have no clue. I'm still confused about that. And I know Cowboy fans know exactly what I'm talking about there.
It came from upstairs.
So with the 25th pick, bring my guy up here. I've got the Packers who, man, you talk about epic falling off with the Eagles and the Jaguars the second half of the year. What about the run the Packers had? I know that's kind of throwing salt in the wounds with the Cowboys fans out there because they throttled the Cowboys in the playoffs. But, man, they were on fire. Love just played exceptional at quarterback. He hit a stride. Now they're looks like one of the top teams in the NFC if they keep going in that right direction. And I've got them going with it. This is an intriguing guy. I would love if Pittsburgh would pick this guy up. I think he would be great to play in that defensive backfield. But coming off an injury though from the University of Iowa, Cooper DeJean, safety from Iowa. I just think this is a guy that can do a little bit of everything in that secondary. He's a jack of all trades. But yeah, and Iowa with that defense they've had the last few years, and he's been a big part of that defense, not allowing hardly any points. I just think this would be a great pickup for any team, but the Packers pick Cooper DeJean from Iowa.
Well, Green Bay, like you said, had a great run. Jordan Love is a rising star. But they need a protector on that offensive line to help him out a little bit. And the guy you picked earlier for one of your teams is a young man out of Iowa, Jackson Powers Johnson. I think fits the bill. They lost John Runyon, the offensive guard. They lost one of their offensive tackles. But you bring this guy in to solidify that offensive tackle spot. You're bringing in Josh Jacobs to run the football from the Raiders to help Corey Dillon at running that football. Of course, they lost Aaron Jones, but I like the Green Bay Packers to really put some pressure on it and get better than that 9-8 season they had a year ago.
Oh, definitely. I look at them as one of the teams to beat in the NFC next year. If they, it should be interesting between the Lions and the Packers in that division. I look at the Vikings maybe a work in progress right now, but and the Bears, they're the same way. But the Packers and the Lions next year in that NFC North should be a interesting rivalry to watch next year. All right, number 26, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who you got?
Well, they needed some help on the interior offensive line, but they've kind of addressed that in free agency. They were bringing in 3 offensive linemen in free agency. They've added edge rusher Randy Gregory, former Cowboy, and I think he played with the 49ers a year ago. They bring in quarterback Bryce Hall from the Jets. They need some help in the secondary. I think they go just up the road to Clemson and bring in Nick Wiggins, and he could really bolster this secondary. A young man from out of Clemson, Nate Wiggins, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah. I think they go cornerback too, but I'm going a little bit different direction. This is another interesting name. We talked about Chop Robinson earlier. And this guy was nicknamed by his grandmother as a baby because his smile reminded her of the Kool-Aid Man. And he signed a name, image, and likeness deal with Kool-Aid as a freshman at Alabama. And what a career he had at Alabama. Kool-Aid McKinstry. I think he was a shutdown corner, played in every game, was named a South SEC All-Freshman team, making 25 tackles with a sack and one interception. I think the Buccaneers go, like you said, in that secondary help, Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama, another Alabama guy that comes off the board here. So, Cardinals, I got them taking their third pick, and I know people are out there saying that's not going to happen, but stranger things have happened, guys. So taking their third pick in the NFL draft, and I've got them going defense again. Darius Robinson, defensive end from Missouri. This guy, 2023 first team All-SEC, led the team with 14 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks, played more edge than he had in previous year, was a team captain. I just think this is a good pickup, a 4.95 40-yard dash, not the best one. 6'5", 285 pounds, and he's got that defensive end look. I think they go with Darius Robinson, defensive tackle from Missouri.
I told you earlier I had one running back in the draft.
Oh, here we go.
Call him up to the podium. Running back Jonathan Brooks from out of Texas, who ran for 1,139 yards, 10 touchdowns last year for the Longhorns. Going to jump in there and help James Connors out a little bit. So the Cardinals going to address their needs in the first round here with getting Marvin Harrison and getting Jonathan Brooks, wide receivers and running backs to help out Kyler Murray coming up this season. But not a lot of depth at that running back position this year coming out of college. And running backs have kind of faded away as far as how much money they bring to the table now or how much money they're getting and kind of getting released fairly quickly as well, too. And it's been a lot of talk about running backs kind of getting together and standing their ground. But I think Brooks has a chance to be drafted in the first round here by Arizona.
Yeah, and you – look, as far as James Conner go, I would have loved to kept him in Pittsburgh, but he just couldn't stay healthy, and that is carried over to the Cardinals at points of time where he could not stay healthy. But great running back. If they give him some help there, maybe it can keep him off the injury list. But I've got them. I've already picked that. So 28, the Bills. Wow. Diggs is gone. Who you got the Bills taking?
Well, I got them going to cornerback. They need some help at the corner. Like you said, they lost Stephon Diggs, but they bring in Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins, a couple of wide receivers to help that position out. Also, they need some help on the offensive line to bring in Leo Collins, former Cowboy offensive lineman. But they need a corner in the worst way. And Cooper DeJean, the young man from Iowa you talked about, you really liked. And that's the biggest need for the Bills, and he's the best available at this spot in the draft. Cooper DeJean, the cornerback from Iowa, to join the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I've got him going, trying to replace Diggs. I don't know if this guy can do it or not, but we'll see. This guy you talked about earlier, Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver from LSU, 6'2", 209 pounds, a 4.33 340. He led the FBS with 17 receiving touchdowns 2023. I just think they've got to go because they lost. Gabe Davis is gone. I know they've got I can't think of the guy's name that kind of stepped up, but he is not a number one wide receiver, so they need some wide receiver help. But I've got them taking Brian Thomas Jr. there at 28. So the next pick, the upstart Detroit Lions. And this guy is one that I thought this is the one I struggle with Pittsburgh. I could see Pittsburgh taking this guy over Powers Johnson. They could go either way, and it would be fine. Offensive lineman out of Duke, Graham Barton. 6'5", 313 pounds. Like you said, can play all around that offensive line, up and down the offensive line. All first team all ACC last year. And I think Detroit wants to get that offensive line back up. But, I've got him going Graham Barton with the 29.
I like him going on the offensive line. They're going to go to Arizona and take on Jordan Morgan to bring him into the mix. joining offensive line. Like you said, they were really good a year ago. They can get better with Morgan, or maybe that Barton guy along that offensive front. I don't think it's a lot of difference in either one of them. But I like what Detroit's doing. And, man, that's going to be a crazy place up at Detroit on the 29th pick.
Yeah.
Pick on Thursday night.
And I'm thinking about how much do you want to put on Barry Sanders makes an appearance at the NFL draft this year.
Oh, no doubt.
And I would be disappointed if he was not there. All right. I'm going to let you have this one at number 30. Let you go first with this one because,
the Ravens need a replacement for Patrick Queen. They're going to take the edge rush out of Penn State, the Chop Robinson, to jump in there to take Patrick Queen's place. They also picked up Derrick Henry and offensive tackle Josh Jones. They've lost a lot of people in free agency.
They did.
Did Baltimore when you take a look at it with Queen, Stone, Simpson, Darby, Gus Edwards, Morgan Moses. So they lost a lot of people, but Chop Robinson jumps in to take Patrick Queen's place from out of Penn State.
I think they could go pretty much any direction right now with all they lost. But I got them going offensive lineman, offensive tackle, big guy out of the University of Oklahoma, 6'7", 322 pounds, Tyler Guyton. And you Ravens fans, I'm going to just say this. I told you so. You wanted to come up to me or get on social media and tell me, oh, this is the year. This is the year. All I can say is I told you so. And guess what? I make this statement now, and you guys know I am true. You might be wanting to look at your coaching staff because those idiots that you got to where you were running the ball, but yet you decided in the loss to the Chiefs to throw the ball 80% of the time. Over 80% of the time. Why would you change something that worked so well for you the rest of the year in the biggest game of the year, in the AFC Championship game with the Super Bowl on the line? All honesty, if you'd have stuck to the running plan, you might have won that game. And then immaturity, as usual, cost the Ravens. And I'm not scared to say that. Fight me on that, Ravens fans. Fight me on that. Tell me immaturity in that game against the Chiefs did not cost you that game too. So
you said that with a smile on your face, kind of like you enjoyed it.
Look, I enjoyed every minute of that guy pounding his fist on the bench and cutting his hand, and then falling apart after that. I mean, your so-called MVP throwing into triple coverage in the end zone. That's all I'm going to say about that. The best running back playing quarterback in the NFL right now. That's all I'm going to say about that. But yeah, I got Tyler Guyton going there. We'll move on. We got 2 more picks left. I've got the 49ers. And before we go any further, what a Super Bowl last year. Probably one of the best I've seen in a long time. It goes into overtime. The 49ers, man, talking about somebody going away from the game plan, start the second half, not running the ball when you were running the ball so well and start passing and you just can't do it. Nothing against Brock Purdy, but why are you taking time away from running the ball when you were doing it so well? You were controlling the game and you let the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes back in the game. I don't know what you thought about that, Gattis, but I just thought once again the Shanahan gets outcoached in the second half by Andy Reid, and that seems to be a trend with Shanahan. But I don't know what your thoughts about that Super Bowl was.
Yeah, I'm on board with what you said about that. They just didn't pull the right moves at the end of that one. And boy, you just cannot get the football back to Mahomes.
No,
and think you're going to get it back. So, but it was a great Super Bowl to watch. And they've had some people depart that 49ers team, especially on the defensive front. They lost Chase Young. They've lost Eric Armstead. They lost Javon Kinlaw along that front. They brought in some free agency kind of to address the defensive tackle and the edge rushers, but they need an offensive tackle. And the guy I think who fits the bill here is a young man out of BYU, Kingsley Sumatea, 4.5 for 326 pounds. And I apologize, and I'm sure I massacred his name, but
I was going to say that's going to be one I butcher too. I've got him going defense on this one. I've got him taking Jared Verse, defensive end from Florida State, who had just a great senior year. 9 sacks last year. I just think with all the losses on the defensive line, and look, let me tell you, you talk about people leaving San Francisco, it may not be over. Amuk, the wide receiver, he may be gone. I know they're going to have. This is one of those times with the window to the Super Bowl might be getting ready to close for the 49ers to get that Super Bowl win. Cap space is going to be hard to come by with all those guys you got paying over $15 million per year up there. You got and Brock Purdy's contract's coming up soon too, so you better get ready for that. But yeah, I just think Jared Verse is going to the 49ers here. All right, 32nd pick, the defending Super Bowl champions back to back, maybe making history this year. I don't know. Maybe the first three in a row here, the three-peat in the NFL could happen. We don't know. But who you got the Chiefs taking, guys?
I think they need some help at wide receiver. Of course, the wide receivers played when they needed them to play down the stretch in the playoffs and going on the road and getting it done. But see if this sounds like somebody else that has played for Kansas City before. Young man's a wide receiver, 5'11 and a half, weighs 165 pounds.
Yeah.
Calls 75 balls, but runs a 4.21 40. Xavier Worthy, I think, can be another Tyreek Hill. And that's exactly what Kansas City needs. And I think they'll take him at the 32nd pick.
Okay. I've got him going offensive lineman, try to protect Mahomes, a guy you just mentioned, and I'm going to butcher his name just as much. Kingsley Mata, offensive tackle for BYU. Man, this guy was 6'4", 326 pounds. Freshman All-American, second team in his freshman year. He's only a sophomore, so he's coming out earlier. Started his year off with Oregon, then transferred to BYU. But I've got him going offensive tackle there to try to protect Mahomes.
A lot of BYU offensive linemen in the league. That's what's up.
Yes, that's for sure. You can't go wrong there. So that's it for the first round of the draft. Of course, we're not going to do all 7, but I've got a few names out there, local names. I want you to get your comments on. First of all, out of NC State, a guy that I really like, and some projections have him going in the 3rd round. And one of them that I saw, I would be happy to see him going to Pittsburgh. Peyton Wilson. Your thoughts on Peyton Wilson?
Well, the only thing that scares people off a little bit, maybe that knee injury he had coming out of high school. But once he got that squared away, he's been really good the last 2 years for NC State. Man had 138 tackles last year.
All over the field.
I mean, just all over the place. He will never make it to the 3rd round, I don't think. I'm like you. I think he's going up pretty high in that 2nd round, and he'll by far be the first middle linebacker picked in the draft.
Yeah, I would love to see him fall to the 3rd round of the Steelers. What about Cedric Gray, another linebacker out of Carolina? The one I was looking at had him going to your boys in the 3rd round.
Well, we'll take him down there. He's about the only guy that's learned how to play defense out of North Carolina the last 7, 8 years. And at least he doesn't play in the secondary, but still, I think he had a really good career at North Carolina. Put him in the right spot with the right people. I think he makes a good NFL player.
Yeah, and that's a couple of local guys we just want to talk about. But guys, like I said, the draft starts on Thursday night. check us. This will be the first mock draft of the week for me. I'm doing number 2. We recorded on Monday afternoon. The second will be Wednesday night live, but make sure you tune in to both here, and we'll see who comes closer to win, who gets the most. Like I said, we're gunning for 6. We're gunning for 6. We want to get 7 to break the record, but we're gunning for 6 to try to tie Gattis' record. Gattis, thank you so much for coming on, guy. I appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to come on and do it again this year. Hopefully, we'll be able to do it again next year. And I'm glad to bring you into the 21st century and have you on camera this year.
Yeah, I'll dress up a little better next year for it.
I know.
I've enjoyed this as always. We've always had a good time doing it. And when it goes all the way back to our studio days over in Murfreesboro, you bring your daughter, who was young at the time, in, and we even got her to make a pick or two when we were over there. And she did just as good as we have done it in the past, certainly. But it's always fun to get with you and to talk about the NFL draft. I look forward to that as much as anything. I watch all year long. Yeah. This time of year, you got the NCAA men's basketball tournament followed by the Masters, and you go right into the draft. It's a really good time of the year to watch. Major League Baseball starting, started back in April or early April, late March. It's always a great time of year for sports, and the NFL draft right at the top of it all.
Yeah, it definitely one of my favorite things about the NFL is draft time. And doing these mock drafts, a lot of people are like, I don't know, all the mock drafts or whatever. Well, I mean, so was the bracket, the March Madness brackets. Y'all do them, but we do the mock drafts as well. But anyway, thanks again to Gattis. Check him out. Talk a little bit about your show that you got. It's a local radio show, but talk a little bit about that show you got.
Yeah, thank you for letting me doing so. It's almost in our 5th year now. We do it on WDLZ or Earl 98.3 in Murfreesboro every Thursday night. I'll get it right. I've got my days kind of running together. Thursday night, 7 o'clock, 98.3 if you're locally. You can go to online to WDLZFM.com and hear it online as well. But it's primarily directed towards Chowan University. It's called a Coach's Corner. I've expanded it a little bit to go Chowan out of the box, the segment when I talk to different people and talk a little stuff. Like last week, I talked a lot about the NIL and the transfer portal, which I do not care for either one. But to give my thoughts on that, talk about the Masters last week as well. Honestly, I think when you look at the NIL and the transfer portal, it's running people away from supporting the college game by the fact they can't keep up with who's playing on what team. That's been a real problem for me.
Me too.
And to be honest, I don't follow it as close as I did when I had the other show. But I just don't keep up with it as much as I did. And I don't know who's playing for who. And for the coaches, it's got to be a nightmare. And I think that's why, Saban's gone. I think Robert Williams is gone. Krzyzewski, Jay Wright, Villanova coach, is gone. I think these guys find that he couldn't handle it and couldn't deal with it. And, Calipari is forced to take some transfers now down at Arkansas. He's strayed away from him. And I say somebody else is going to get catch up with him too, is Dabo Sweeney down in Clemson. He doesn't like to play the transfer portal. But that's the way of the world is these days. But we talk a lot about things like that. And, of course, Chowan University, we try to highlight as well. And Conference Carolinas and the Gulf South Conference, they play in every Thursday night, 7 o'clock, 98.3. The Earl 98.3 here in Murfreesboro.
Our old buddy, Mr. Earl Teliger. Gosh, I miss that guy. I miss my Thursday talks with Mr. Earl. And we also got to throw a little tribute out to one of our old buddies from the call-in show. The ones that raced with me to get the first call on Gas Show. Oh, Mickey D. McDonald Harris.
Mickey D. Yeah.
Gosh, we miss Mickey D and his crazy predictions. But those are two great guys, and like I said, miss them both. Miss hearing old Mickey D make his predictions on there. But you definitely had something great with that show. Have something great with that show going on, and you guys make sure to tune in if you want to hear a great sports show with Gattis. But Gattis, thank you again, man. I've enjoyed it as always, and we need to get you on here one night. We can talk about. We can really hash out our feelings about the transfer portal and NIL and some other stuff up here. We'll get you on here one night to talk something besides the NFL draft.
Please do, man. I'm enjoying now that everybody can see what I look like and not as scared to pull me back up. Yeah, I would love to. Just give me a call, and it's been a pleasure as always to talk NFL draft with you. It's just like it's going to be a pleasure to watch it starting Thursday night.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for the Final Score tonight. Thanks again to Gattis. You guys have a great week and enjoy the NFL draft. We'll see you next week.